Hello there, and welcome to Talking TV with my mum, the weekly Geek-Dom review Roundup show where we talk about various geek/genre TV shows, and we just have a good old natter about them, basically. I hope that you're all doing well. Thank you very much for joining us, whether it's your first time or whether you're coming back again. Just to quickly say some housekeeping at the beginning: if you can leave a like on the video, if you can subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and also down below go into the comments and chat to us about the things that we're talking about, because we'd love to get some engagement with you, get your thoughts on things, get your feedback on things. And also in my description box, various ways that you can help out the channel and help out me personally. I have Patreon on there, I have Ko-fi on there, and also if you want to chat to me more, I have a Twitter, so just have a look at that and follow me on there, chat to me on there. And yeah, we will expand our conversation and hopefully expand the Geek-Dom. So this week we have one less programme because the Orville wasn't on at the point of us recording this. So we are going to be chatting about the latest Star Trek Discovery, The Walking Dead, Supergirl, Arrow and The Flash. And as usual, as I've been doing for the last couple, I'll be putting timestamps in the description, so if you want to jump to any of those sections specifically, feel free. But we'd love you to stick around and just listen to the whole thing in its entirety. It's up to you. So, there we go. Without further ado, introduce my host. Hello there, Mum. Are you there?
Hello, Dom. Yes, I'm here.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. A lot better this week.
Good, good. So, the cough's not quite as bad as it was? And
not as bad as it was. I've got away from the air conditioning for a few days, so hopefully it'll clear up altogether over the weekend. So
good. Fingers crossed then.
Indeed.
That'll be the end of that for a while for you, because it's been back to back recently, hasn't it?
Yeah. But yeah, I'm all right otherwise. I'm excited about this week's programmes. So
cool. And you were happy with last week's?
Yes. Oh, yes. I didn't get to do the jigsaw when I did listen to it, but because I had gone to work by the time it had gone out, so I did listen to it when I came back from work. So
well, hopefully this week we'll have it. It'll be there so that you'll be able to do your jigsaw this weekend and listen to it.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm off this week, so this weekend, so at least at some point I shall be able to sit and do
it. Cool. Okay. Right. Well, should we get underway?
Yep.
Excellent. Right. So episode the first for today's review, Star Trek Discovery. Episode was called Project Daedalus, and just a little bit of stuff to do with this. It was directed by Star Trek alumni, Star Trek legend Jonathan Frakes, who was Commander Riker in Star Trek The Next Generation series. So that's pretty cool. The lady that was like an overall charge of this episode, Michelle Paradise, I've heard that she has apparently been made the main showrunner for season 3, which, in my opinion, based on this episode, I think could be really good. Because I thought this was a really good episode. It was a really interesting episode.
Exciting.
So if she was in charge of this episode and she's going to be in charge of the series next year, then that bodes well, don't you think?
I think so.
So give me your thoughts then. Give me your thoughts on this episode. How did you find it?
Oh, exciting. Really exciting. So we started off with a shuttle arriving on the Discovery.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be the Admiral.
Yeah.
Is it the Admiral?
Yeah.
And she's come to examine Spock.
She wanted to basically try and ascertain as to what the actual truth is about everything, didn't she?
Yeah. She wanted to use some technology to work out, like in his brain as well. She had some fancy stuff, didn't she? Because she works with Section 31.
Mm-hmm.
So she's got a lot of the new technology. The Tyler is still under suspicion at this point regarding all the various other things that have gone on with all the transmissions sent out from the ship. So he's been still kept in confinement.
Yeah.
So basically, they found the footage, and on the footage she was showing them, it does show Spock killing everyone.
This was the footage from the mental institution, wasn't it?
Yeah. But the Admiral suspects somebody called Patar. Patar.
I can't remember what her name was. Yeah,
It's something like Patar.
She is she was another Vulcan who was
Yeah,
like the head of, or one of the heads of Section 31 or something.
yeah. She said, yeah, she's a head of control or
Yeah.
something. She said she suspects that she's messed with the video
Mm-hmm.
basically. So that was her first and foremost. That was her what she suspected. We had Crazy Tilly.
Yeah.
Crazy. She'd found where the transmissions had gone, and they'd gone to Section 31.
Yes, that's right. So that kind of further made them
Which
suspect
made Tyler's
Tyler.
situation even more dire because they thought, well, it's definitely got to be him then, because
Mm.
he's their envoy. So basically, that didn't look good. So basically, the admiral said that they had to go to the Section 31 HQ to get to the bottom of this.
Yes, because she obviously once they'd gone through all the video footage, they talked to Spock. She asked him all these questions, put him through like a lie detector test, and then obviously Michael vouched for him. She seemed convinced, like, with the results of the lie detector thing, and that's obviously when she talked about this admiral, and she said she had her concerns about her because she's a logic extremist, which was a throwback to the episode the other week where we saw Burnham and Spock as children. The reason that
Yes.
obviously she gave that why she left the home was because of logic extremists, that they were targeting the family because of her, because she's human and she's there, and it's like, they are pure, Vulcans in terms of the Vulcan way, and everything else is wrong outside of the Vulcan way. And this woman, how somebody like that gets into such a high position of power within this sort of spacefaring, conglomerate of different species that are there for exploration and peace. I don't know. That I found a little bit bizarre. But yeah, so she's like, she is one of these people, and I've got my suspicions that they've been doing things they shouldn't be doing. She explained about how control is like an artificial intelligence that all of Starfleet uses, and they use it to determine courses of action to do with various things. But Section 31 seems to have more of a direct access to control, and she's concerned that the things that this, whether it is, Admiral Batar or whatever her name is feeding information into control, which is having a negative impact that's affecting the whole of Starfleet, and she doesn't like the direction that things are going in. So that was also her motivation for trying to get the truth from Spock, was because, look, I want to ascertain if my suspicions and my worries about this other admiral are founded, and it seemed that they were.
Yeah. We also, after she'd said, right, that's where we're heading for the HQ, they showed that Ariam,
yeah.
looking through memories, and she was saving and deleting things, which at the time I was thinking that's really weird. And then we found out she was a human once.
Yeah.
So that was sad. It showed she was looking at footage of her and her husband. It looked like they'd just been on honeymoon.
Yeah, they were.
And they was on about going back to the.
It looked like they were actually on their honeymoon, didn't it? Like they were on a beach and things like that, and she looked really happy. And yeah, there was the fact that this is the memory that she obviously kept replaying. It's is clearly like, well, this is one of her last memories of that life. What was interesting was the fact that we've wondered for a while what the deal was with her. Is she an actual robot? Is she half robot, half human? Is she an alien? What is she? And then this gave us the fact that, yeah, she was a normal person once, and something happened to her, and that's basically why she is how she is now.
Like a cyborg or something,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's how it seemed to pan out gradually anyway, with the fact that there was obviously some accident, I think, when they left their honeymoon, which is terrible. It's like newly married, went on a honeymoon, and then on their way home, their shuttle crashed or something. He died, and she was obviously she must have been in a very bad state, and the only way to save her life was to upgrade her with, robot sort of technology in order to allow her to continue living, but it transformed her into, like, say, a cyborg. So that was quite sad. That was like, oh wow, so this is the deal with her. And like you say,
yeah,
she was
her backstory.
she was at this machine, and she was basically deleting and backing up her memories. It was like when we do this with our computers or our phones
Well, yeah,
or
she said
whatever.
she does it on a regular basis until he said, "Hope you're not going to delete me," and she said, "Never," or something.
No, didn't she? Wasn't she sarcastic? And she
Or
was like,
she
"Oh, they're the
also
first
say,
ones to go."
"Oh, that's the first ones to go." Yeah, something like
Yeah.
that. And then Tilly had said, "Well, I need you to help me with some encryption work." So she obviously headed off to the bridge, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So while they were doing that, at some point she had some sort of blip.
Yeah,
Her
her
eyes went
eyes
all
went
weird.
red again, didn't they?
Mm. So obviously you're wondering what she was doing because she kept getting distracted, didn't she?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so anyway, they headed towards the HQ and they found it had a minefield around it.
Well, it was an old abandoned prison colony, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So it was surrounded by all these really specific mines that zoomed in, like, that like keyed into frequencies of shields and things like this. So they were like, we're going to have to go in blind. We can't use our shields. We can't use this navigation. And then she said to the other girl that, again, I can't remember her name, but the one that's been in it from the beginning, that's got sort of some robotic implant on her face, the navigator girl, the one that's the pilot,
The
basically.
gingery haired girl.
Yeah.
Sort of red hair, yeah.
And she said, remember your training from the academy. This is, like a simulation where you just got to use your instincts to fly
Yeah.
through this. So, yeah, they had this minefield. And this was where they discovered this was where the messages were being sent to.
Yes.
And it also turned out not only the messages being sent to this place, and it's also actually the headquarters of Section 31.
Mm. Yes. Well, I don't know whether this bit happened before they went into the minefield. There was a bit where with Burnham and Spock, they went to her quarters,
Yeah.
and they were still at loggerheads with each other. And she said, try to get him to play chess.
That's right.
And he was going, "Oh, why will that solve it?" And she said, "Well, it's a game of logic after all." So she tried to convince him to have this game of chess.
Mm-hmm.
So that was. Meanwhile, they went back to the bridge, and Ariam was doing weird stuff again, asking weird questions.
Yeah.
And the blip had changed the encryption because whatever she'd done previously for Tilly, when Tilly went to it again, it had been changed.
Mm-hmm.
But at that point, I thought the robot woman, Ariam, or her name was aware something was happening to her. It was almost like you knew something was going on.
I think she was, because she said she asked Tilly to stay with her. When she was working, she said, "Will you stay with me? Stay by my side?"
Stay by me no matter what happens. Just
and Tilly
stay
was
there.
like, "Okay, yeah, sure, I can do that." So it's like clearly part of her was trying to, she knew something was wrong, and it's like, stay with me to make sure I don't do anything that I shouldn't do. And all this time as well, we saw the security chief, Nan, was sort of hovering around, kind of looking at things and stuff. She seemed like she was a little bit suspicious of something, but we didn't really get a payoff. She asked her about her breathing.
Yeah, that's what one of the weird questions was saying about the breathing, wasn't it?
Yeah, and because she has this like a device attached to her, doesn't she? And she said about your species, about how they breathe and stuff. And she said, "Oh yeah, I need to wear this and stuff." And she's like, "Oh, interesting." And it's like, that was kind of random. Why did you go and have a chat with her about that? So that sort of triggered her automatically. It's a bit like, she's behaving strangely.
She's acting strangely, yeah.
Keep an eye on her. Just quickly as well, just crossing back to Spock and Burnham, the other thing about the thing that had happened with them, initially they were in engineering, weren't they? And they were trying to go backwards and forwards about determining, why is the Red Angel appeared to you? Why you specifically? And they ended up getting on Stamets' nerves, and he was like, "Look, can you just go, because you're distracting me from what I'm trying to do here?" Because he was trying to figure out what had gone wrong with the spore drive and stuff, and they were bickering, and he was just, in the end, he just said, "Look, just get out of here, will you?" And
yeah, because Michael noticed that there was no red burst when they went to Toulouse, and there was no red burst when he had his vision.
Yeah.
Saying why, because every time the angels appeared, there's been a red burst, hasn't there?
Yeah.
So that's one of the things they were trying to work out on the system.
Mm-hmm.
So Stamart told them to get out. That's when they went to have a game of chess.
And she was trying to use it as a method to kind of somehow unlock his mind, and get him to anchor to logic and start thinking of it like a puzzle, of like, work it out, work out that. And he was playing like a dick. He was, like, He was purposefully. It was like he was trying to wind her up. But it was
He's been
interesting
so
because
mean.
did you not feel that in a way, whether he was doing it on purpose or not, what he did during that game ended up being almost like a teachable moment for Burnham when it came to them trying to navigate the minefield. Because he was playing the game completely illogically. He was playing the game the way it shouldn't be played. He was making moves that made no sense, and it was completely random. And so then you jump to the relevance of that in the minefield bit. So they're in the minefield. One of the other things, going back to you saying about Ariam started acting weird, she started sending out something which it seemed to change the behavior of the mines. And then the mines were like homing in on them, and the mines were starting to attack the ship, and they were like, look, we need to put the shields up because otherwise we're going to get destroyed. And then it was like, but we still need to fly blind. We can't get, the controls aren't working properly and stuff. So she had to try and navigate. And then Burnham came up with an idea, and she said, it's like a game. She's like, we're like playing a game. So you need to change the rules and do things randomly. And then you go, that was the relevance of the whole thing with Spock. Because then it was like, introduce chaos into the game. And then the computer won't be able to compute the outcome because it can't account for chaotic actions. It can only deal with logical ones.
Yeah.
So
So
they
what
were
was
all
happening
shouting out
while
things.
they were doing that woman, that Ariam, she kept moving from desk to desk, wasn't she? Like programming things. It's almost like she was trying to control what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
She kept reprogramming different things, like she was playing the game against them.
Yeah.
If you think about it, what we found out, and then she was sending a message to somebody, wasn't she? Just before they got through the minefield.
Yeah.
And then they started getting attacked.
Yeah.
And then they were hailed by somebody from the HQ, and it was that Patar woman saying that they had been ordered to attack them by Starfleet.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they're thinking, what? And then obviously she realised the Admiral was on board the ship, so she's saying you're a traitor or you're treason or something, isn't it? Because you're with fugitives.
Yeah.
Because obviously she paired up with them all and given them loads of grief. And then was it then when the power went off?
Yeah.
And we had Spock, not a happy Spock again.
Yeah.
Moaning about it. I like that bit with Stamart and him chatting.
And they both.
And he said, would you like to help? Yes, I think I'll help you.
they both sort of were honest with each other, weren't they? Because Stamets sort of pointed out about Spock's behaviour, and he said about Burnham, and he just said, look, she risked everything to save you. This is how much she cares about you. This is how much she loves you. And that gave Spock something to think about. And then he said, may I be as bold with you? And then he made the comment about the Doctor, and he said, maybe you should stop thinking about it's to do with you and him and about your feelings, and think about what he's going through, what his feelings are, and how he's not coping with this new reality that he's now found himself in.
Yeah, exactly. So it sounded like he was being mean at first, but then when he thought about it, it's like, actually, that's good advice.
Yeah.
It's all looked like, why are you being so... Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe you're right.
Yeah.
So then, obviously, they decided that they were going to go down into the HQ, and they took Ariam with them.
They did. Because she's like a robot person, she said that it would allow her to interface with the systems and potentially override any security defenses and things like that. So it was like, okay, well, she would make sense to bring on this mission. So it was Burnham, Ariam, and Narn. And the other thing though, the other important thing to mention here, when Ariam was clearly sending out all of this, like this data, this message, which, at the time we didn't really know what it was, Narn, obviously, after previously being a little bit suspicious of her, had been hovering around in the background. You kept seeing her in the back of the shot, sort of looking like she was sort of keeping an eye on what's she doing, what's she up to. So that then obviously plays into when they have the little away team. One of the other reasons, obviously, Narn is there is because, like, well, she suspects that Ariam's up to something. So it's
because Burnham said to her to Narn to go and sort out the life support, but she was didn't want to leave her alone with the robot woman.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, sure, we need the life support so we can breathe and stuff.
Yeah.
And they found all these dead bodies
Mm-hmm.
floating around.
Yeah, everything was like they were all frozen, and the bodies and so. And it turned out the bodies were actually the other Section 31 leaders, weren't they?
Yes. Yeah.
And that they'd been killed weeks ago.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. Then the other bit we got, it kind of quickly jumped back, didn't it, to the Discovery. And Saru had been pondering stuff, and he was like, I'm going to do some things. There's some stuff I want to look at because I've got a few queries about something. And he basically deduced the footage of Spock killing the people in the mental institution was faked. And he said, if you look at this, and he ran a temperature scan almost, and he said that, it doesn't change, it's the same and stuff, and it's not real, it's a hologram. And it was the same thing.
Because they found that woman, didn't they? Patar was dead, and they said, so the message wasn't her because she was already been dead at least 2 weeks, they reckoned.
So that was also a hologram, and so they were able to tie that together and go, okay, so this is all connected.
Section 31 frame Spock.
Yes, but Section 31 frame Spock, and then obviously with the discovery that Admiral Patar is actually dead, so that wasn't her that spoke to them, it's then, okay, so it's actually control. It's actually the artificial intelligence has actually gone rogue, and it's the one that's done all of these things.
Yeah, but they were trying to work out why they got the transmission, and that went till he sussed that Ariam had gone to the other side to do something.
Yeah.
And she deleted some of her memories to make room for something else, basically, because she was downloading all that stuff that pod. What was it?
It was to do with the probe thing, yeah.
Yeah, so she had to delete so many of her own memories in order for it to download as much as she could into her head.
Yeah.
Like, no. And then meanwhile, back on the HQ, she went a bit nuts, didn't she? And she pulled that thing off that Nan's face, the thing that helps her breathe.
Mm-hmm.
The fighting I put was better than WWE, some of that.
Oh, they had some really cool moves in that fight sequence. That was very exciting.
It was like WWE wrestling when she
did
those. What was it? When you pull him over the head, what was it?
They're like Hurricane Rana.
Yeah, no.
No.
Not a choke slam, something like a slam, some sort of slam, body slam or something she did.
Oh, when she lifted her up. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Exciting.
And then it's like, oh wow, she's just gone absolutely ballistic. But then she was also then kind of conflicted because she was struggling again, and that was then the throwback to why she'd obviously asked Tilly to stay with her earlier on. The two sides of her, the computer side, the robot side, and the human side, were in conflict. So she basically told. She went into
she pushed her into a container, didn't she?
Yeah, that's right.
And then they realised that what she'd been downloading was actually the cause of the end, which is what Spock has been seeing.
She said it was
she couldn't get back in the container, could she? She couldn't open it again to get her out.
Yeah, because she said that all the stuff she was uploading was all to do with anything she'd found out from this thing about artificial intelligence and how to enhance it and stuff. And she was like, if I can't hold it for very long, I'm trying to resist that side of me from giving control all of the information it wants. And if it gets all this information, it's going to be terrible. But you need to do something. I can't. And then Burnham was like, well, what, I want to help you. And she's like, you can't help me. There's nothing you can do here. And then it turned out that the thing she was in actually had like an airlock, and she was like, you need to you need to open it. You need to open the airlock. And she's like, no. And then it was really emotional and dramatic.
Yeah.
And she was like, no,
Tilly
this
was
is the
trying
only
to send
way.
her a message, wasn't she? Tilly said, I'll send you something. And also she's trying to send her something good to give us something good to hold on to try and help her stay with them.
Yes, that's right.
But she said she couldn't stop it, and she wanted her to throw her out into space so she could save them all. But Burnham didn't want to give up on her. Mm-hmm. And then she said something to Burnham about basically everything is because of Burnham.
Yes. She said she's responsible for everything. It's all connected to her. And then she told her...
you have to find Project Daedalus.
Daedalus.
Was it called? Daedalus. Oh, see, I didn't hear the last bit, but I wrote what I thought it said. Yes, so she said that to her.
And
then next thing
Go on.
she was gone.
Yeah, because it was like, there's no other way. I can't hold it any longer. You need to do it. You need to do it now. And so she begrudgingly did, and
But she didn't do it, did she? She went out the airlift, the what do you call it?
the airlock.
What's it called? Airlock. And when she turned around, it was Nan that pressed the eject
Yeah,
button.
that's right. It was Nan that did it.
Because she was still holding on to her, like, no. And then next thing, she saw the door go. She went flying out. She was like, and then she just turned and saw that the other woman had done it.
Yeah.
And then, oh, bless her, and she's floating into space. And the memory she sent her was her and her husband.
And that was before she
went offline. Oh, I'm so sad at the end.
It was really, really sad.
Mm.
It was very, very, very sad because, you know, it's interesting. We have not had a lot of this character. You know, we have had bits and pieces of her. We've seen her. She's always been there. We've always wondered what the deal is with her. And the fact that they were able to tell her origin story and have us connect with her sort of on an emotional level in one episode, and then have her death be so meaningful at the end, it was really good. And that's what I was saying before about this woman that's taken over the show. It's like, if you can do that in one episode, I'm really looking forward to what you can do for a whole season. Can't wait to see what she does in
the next season, yeah.
Yeah.
Because you connected with us. I mean, obviously, we were all aware as a viewer what was going on, but we were a bit suspicious at the beginning when she was deleting stuff. Why is she doing that? And then we realised it's something she does regularly.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then obviously we've seen the thing with her husband and realised she was really a human before. And then it was, and it's like, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it was very, very good. So this
Project Daedalus, whatever it is.
Daedalus. Basically, let me just say, right, Daedalus. Daedalus from Greek mythology. Daedalus was the father of Icarus. And you know the story of Icarus with the wings, and he flew too close to the sun, and the wings melted. And Daedalus was also the person that created the labyrinth that the Minotaur lived in for King Minos in Crete. So he was a craftsman. He was like an inventor, a creator, and was seen. He was like, you know, it was like to do with knowledge and wisdom and stuff like that. The fact that it's called Project Daedalus, and knowing who Daedalus was in Greek mythology, the things he built, the things he created, it's going to be interesting. It's like, why is it called Project Daedalus? That's intriguing. Yeah. And what is Project Daedalus?
And why is it Burnham's fault?
Yes.
Exactly. So it's like everything roots back to her, doesn't it?
So,
maybe she is one of the things angel suit.
We never know. But I do know, one thing I do know is the new episode of Star Trek, which is available now on Netflix. As today, recording the 22nd of March, the new episode's up. It's called The Red Angel.
Yes, it is, yeah. I thought, go on, get this podcast out of the way, get to watch it. You know, I'll be doing later on. I want to find out more now after that episode. It's like, we had so much information, so much more, you know. After such a long sort of like, oh, come on, we don't want to... They haven't dragged it out now, have they?
No.
You know, once we got Spot back, it's like they're telling us more each week now. So it's like, yay.
Mm-hmm.
So exciting.
Yeah, it was very good.
Such a good program.
Very, very good.
Yes.
So there we go. So that was a very exciting, emotional, interesting, intriguing... Informative, yeah. Any other words beginning with I... episode of Star Trek Discovery. So that was really good. So we'll then take it from space and bring it back down to Earth now, where we move on to this week's episode. Again, another really good episode.
Oh, yes.
This was an episode we've been waiting for. This was The Walking Dead, and the episode was called Scars. And we finally got the answers that we've been after for ages.
Yes. It was so exhausting as well, though. Another one. Right, so we started off with Michonne. Well, she was killing walkers, and she was near the water, wasn't she, I think?
Yeah.
And she was, she looked like she was pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
Not very pregnant, but a little pregnant.
So you go, this is like a flashback.
Yeah. So it started with a flashback, and she found Rick's gun.
Yes.
Whoa! It obviously had to be Rick's gun because obviously Carl. That was a long time for Carl, and I thought that's the gun because obviously when she took it back, she cleaned it up and put it in a box with Judith's name on, didn't she?
Yeah.
So I thought she's now thinking, oh, is he one of those out there, one of those walkers?
Yeah.
She didn't know what to think of it, did she? Like, is he dead? Is he a walker? What's happened? The gun's there. Why would he drop his gun?
Yeah.
So that left her with lots of things thinking on her head. So, right. So Daryl's turned up at Alexandria
with Henry
with his
and all
Henry
that. Yeah.
and Lydia, and yes, that was a bit interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But we did. I mean, she wasn't very. She didn't really want her there because obviously she knows who she is, doesn't she? Because she's the one that found her.
Yeah.
Obviously, and told him to take care of her. And so if she wasn't, she was a bit dubious about letting them through with that girl. But they went in.
Well,
but anyway,
this ties into like the version of Michonne that we've had recently, where she's quite detached and she doesn't want to be involved with other people and she doesn't want to help anybody. And so them showing up for help, she was she was reluctant, like you said, obviously for other reasons, but also it's consistent with how she's been, that she's just not willing to help people. And we finally got the answer to why that is.
Yes.
We found out why she's become the way she's become and what happened to her.
Yeah. Obviously, we got quite a bit of flashbacks on that, but basically she told Daryl that she'd let them fix Henry up, but then she wanted them to leave again, didn't she?
Yeah.
So there was a nice little chat with Judith and Daryl, which I thought was a soft-sided Daryl.
Yeah.
That was nice. But so basically, it was basically fix him up, and then they were gone and back on their way, and she wasn't interested in what they were up to. She was just like, yeah, you get off you go. And Judith wasn't best pleased about that.
No.
But then we went to this flashback where this woman appears at the gate, who Michonne apparently knows from back in the day before the epidemic or whatever it is, and she's got tons of children with her.
Yeah, and didn't you think it was weird as well that she kind of resembled Michonne?
Yeah.
Like when she first arrived.
I thought it was going to be a sister or something, a long-lost sister or a cousin or some relative of hers, but turned out she was some old friend of hers or something.
Yeah, her name was Jocelyn, and it transpired that they were at like high school and college together. They were friends from back in the day, and they'd been found, they were in need of help, and so she let them in, and it was like, yeah, of course, and obviously this is back when she's pregnant, she's still trying to help people, even though everything went down the way it did with the Sanctuary people and with Rick disappearing.
Yeah.
And so she let them in, because it's like, well, of course, she's my old friend, plus she's got all these kids with her, and so she needs help. And we got this story played out where she was reconnecting with her friend. It all seemed really nice. They were having all these little jokey conversations and just sort of reconnecting with each other. And then things kind of took a bit of a turn, didn't they?
Yeah. So I don't know exactly how it came about. I don't know where she had been. She went into the house and there was nobody there.
The kids had a sleepover.
That's right. The kids had a sleepover, and she was going to pick them up, wasn't she?
Yeah, and all the other parents
they were staying in the other house. Yeah, they all went to the house to get the kids, and there was no one in the house. And then they checked the supplies. All the supplies and the medication had been taken.
Yeah.
And someone had been killed, I think, in there. Somebody that was in the store.
Yeah.
And Judith had gone missing.
Yeah. So
it's like, oh, days. So Michonne felt really betrayed then by Jocelyn.
Yeah.
And so they obviously went on a mission to look. Her and Daryl went on a mission to find them, and they were hiding out in it looked like an old school.
Yeah, which was quite appropriate because they were mostly kids. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so then Daryl got shot.
Yeah.
Michonne got hit.
And
then the next thing we know, they were hanging up like a piece of meat.
Yeah.
Oh, that was horrible, that bit. And so this woman got the children to brand them.
So we
So basically,
finally,
that's where the X's come from.
yeah, we finally found out what the deal was with the X's because they got like a red hot poker type thing with an X,
Mm,
put it in a fire, and then actually branded it straight onto their skin while they were hanging from these like meat hooks and stuff, didn't
yeah,
they? And you had that really chilling moment when Michonne was getting branded, and the girl Jocelyn was just staring right at her. And Michonne,
yeah,
obviously, she was gagged, so her screams were muffled, but she was like staring, just staring right in her face with no emotion, while Michonne was
yeah.
screaming
Oh,
in pain from having this hot brand stuck on her back. And it's like, you're supposed to be her friend. And then there was all these little bits here and there, little lines about survival and having to be tough and making the hard choices and things like that. And that, in a way, in a lot of ways, that philosophy ties in with the Whisperers because it's this whole survival of the fittest thing. No human emotion. You can't be like that because it makes you weak.
yeah, and the kids were also brainwashed, weren't they, to think like
Yeah,
that?
it was like a horror movie. It was like Children of the Corn or
Children of the
something.
Corn.
Yeah.
I think everybody thought that when they watched it. Like,
Yeah.
no, Children of the Corn.
This little army of psycho children.
Mm,
But Daryl, obviously, we'd seen Daryl sort of fidgeting with his arm ties for a little while,
yeah,
and then it sort of skipped a bit, didn't it? Because it went from them
yeah.
hanging up, and the next thing, Daryl was free, and Daryl was letting Michonne free.
That was really weird, wasn't it? It's like they didn't even show them leaving or the no. It's maybe they passed out from the pain, and then
Possibly.
they left them. So obviously he had been trying to get himself free, and he freed himself, and then got her down.
Yeah.
And then when they went outside, that's when battle commenced again, wasn't it?
And she had like a caravan, like what's it called, like a Winnebago or something, and she was loading
Yeah,
all the kids into it, and Michonne was trying to stop her, and then they got into a fight, and they were fighting away, and then she killed her. She got the upper hand because she realised this Jocelyn is not going to give up, she's not going to let her
she was
through.
battering Michonne, wasn't she?
Yeah, so Michonne just took her down, and she stuck the sword right through her and finished her off. And then you're thinking, oh,
And then the
maybe...
kids came at her.
Yeah, because you were thinking maybe this is going to break the spell. Maybe this is going to, their leader has been vanquished. But no, it just
Yeah, they
fueled
realised,
them.
oh, we shouldn't be doing this. Yeah,
And you had this older kid, and he was like, oh, we need to stop her. Look what she's done. And he sort of mobilised all the other kids, and they were all coming at her with weapons. And then that was truly horrific and heartbreaking.
yeah.
And she kept going, stop, don't do this. Please don't make me do this, And she's like, I don't want to fight you. I don't want, because she realised what was going to have to happen, but she didn't want it to happen. And then that's when she got, obviously, her stomach got slashed, and then it was then survival mode, and it was like, right, you're going to kill me. You're going to kill me. You're going to kill my unborn baby. You'll kill my daughter as well. So I've got no choice. And so then she just had to start killing and slicing up.
Or you just saw the sword. We didn't see anything, obviously, because they filmed it nicely, because it wouldn't have looked very good, would it? Showing somebody killing all these kids, but then obviously all you saw was all the bodies.
Well, they did a very clever thing as well, because what they did there, we interlaced this with the present day story, because after Daryl and his gang got patched up and they went on their way, obviously you mentioned before, Judith was not happy with Michonne, and Judith was like, when did we, stop caring about our friends? When did we turn our backs on everybody? And then Judith went missing, and it was like, oh my God. And then obviously she panicked.
Michonne went to see Negan, didn't she?
Yes.
She was having a right go at him, saying about moaning, like going up mad that he chats to her, and he's saying, I bet you haven't told him about what happened to Glenn and da da da. And he said, yes, I've told her everything.
Yeah.
It's like, and then she realised that she took the gun out of the box and had left. So it's like, oh no, here we go. It's like again, all over again, what had happened in the past, losing her.
Yeah.
And not knowing what to do with.
So she went off looking for her, and along the way, obviously, she found a herd of zombies. And because she found, what did she find? Something that belonged to Judith that she dropped.
It was a bike, the little bike.
Oh, it was the bike. Yeah, of course, it was the bike.
Yeah.
She saw the bike, and then she saw the zombies, and so she started hacking her way through them. And so then that's when we got the bit with the flashbacks. It was interlacing, so every time she was swinging her sword, it was showing her kill a zombie, but then it would cut back to the past where she was clearly killing one of the kids. So they got away with not showing her kill children, but you knew exactly what was happening
showing,
there.
yeah, we knew she was slaying them at the same, in the past.
And then when she finally cut them all down, And then Daryl burst out of the building because God knows where he'd been. He'd been off looking somewhere else. And he came out and she was just stood there and you just got the pan out of all these bodies everywhere. Michonne crying, covered in blood. And then she was screaming for Judith. Judith came out of the caravan and she just stopped and stared at her. And she was like...
Yeah, 'cause she was covered in blood as well.
Yeah, and she's like, Judith. And then eventually Judith went, Mommy! And she, like, ran towards her and stuff.
Yeah, that was when she was little, wasn't it? She was just cute.
Yeah, and then it cut
So
back...
she came out and went, oh, yeah, she was only little then, wasn't she?
Yeah, and then it cut back to the present day, and
Yes.
you saw Michonne cutting through, and then she saw Judith, and Judith was killing zombies herself, but then she got caught. One of the zombies grabbed her, and she was screaming. She's going, help me, and Michonne rushed in and saved the day, and saved Judith, and they hugged and stuff, and then you saw them, they were sat on a rock having a conversation.
Yeah, she was telling her about that bad day, but she had remembered it all.
Yeah, and she
started telling her about the day when she got missing before and all, what happened, but Judith remembered it all.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, and then at the end she said, "Why? When did we stop loving Daryl and everybody?"
Yeah, and she said she just wants to help them because they're our friends.
Yeah.
And then Michonne had this feeling, and also that also explained as well, after everything that went down with this person she trusted, taking people in, that's when she then said,
made her the way she is today.
We're not doing this anymore. We're not taking in people anymore. We're not doing anything. And you go, okay, well, I can understand that from the perspective of strangers, but what about your friends?
Yeah.
But
she said she'd make a decision, didn't she, to keep Alexandria about those that lived there, to keep the kids safe.
Mm-hmm.
So shut out all the others. Basically, she didn't trust anyone after that.
Yeah.
She just, regardless of friendships and history, it was like, no. She was adamant, wasn't she? She just, all she cared about was keeping those two kids, all the kids safe, wasn't it?
Yep. She obviously had this change of heart through the conversation with Judith, realising Judith's innocence and love and kindness brought Michonne back, and then she's like, yeah, you're right. We do love them and we do care about them. And then we got the shot of then Daryl and stuff on the road, travelling along.
And they came along in a horse-drawn car.
Yes.
That was ace. I thought I want one.
That was awesome. Because it was only like half a car or something, wasn't it? And the rest was being pulled by the horses.
And they found Daryl, and then they said, we're going to go with you to the kingdom.
Yeah, they're like,
finally.
And so everybody's happy, and they all got in the car. And then as they pulled away, the scene panned over to the... Yes, well, it changed, didn't it? Because it panned away, but then it panned to clearly showing the kingdom and everybody going in through the gates.
Yes, they saw them actually. Yeah, they were there, weren't they? It was the kingdom they saw them going into.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, we must tell Alpha.
Yeah.
No, now they know that place. And that's where everything's going to happen, and they're all there now.
Yeah, now we've got some more of the main cast in the kingdom, further playing into our speculation about what might be going down here, that this fair is going to turn into a massacre. Interestingly as well, the final two episodes of this season, next week's episode, or this weekend coming, is called The Calm Before. And,
yes, it is, isn't it?
And then the final episode of this season is called The Storm.
Oh!
So you've got The Calm Before The Storm. So it's like, ooh.
Oh, so we have a lovely episode, which will have a cliffhanger leading into the final one then.
Yes, definitely.
Oh, I love it when the plan comes together.
But yes, it was just so...
Yes, all in all, very good.
It paid off this mystery in such a great way, and did it in such a way that it tied into the relevance of the current day storyline, and just this horrific, traumatizing sort of sequence.
Yeah, you could see, couldn't you? I mean, all the things like that happened to her, and obviously, like you say, the scars. What happened to her.
Oh wow, it was just great. It was so good.
It was so good, yeah.
So good. But yeah, so that was a real sort of adrenaline ride, and just a nicely paced story and things. And what's interesting as well, just a little tidbit to go back to the whole thing you said about Negan, is that I think Michonne is now starting to realise just his thing where he was like, I can be useful to you, and I can, I'm a resource and you're not using me. And it's like, yeah, I think maybe after this you might think that a little bit more, because after that conversation, that's obviously what spurred her on with going to find Judith and stuff. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out with Negan and where he goes in his place with them all, in the future. So we move from that. So this is the third pretty decent episode in a row in this review. We go into our DC shows now, into the portion of the Arrowverse section of this podcast, and we talk about this week's Supergirl, which was called Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And after all the build-up, we finally got to see Lex Luthor.
Yes, so it started off in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Lena watching what Lex was doing to the world.
Yep.
And his hatred of Superman.
Yep.
And then, obviously, it showed him coming in a helicopter, like in a stretcher or something, and he's back.
Because he was... That was the flashback was the scene that's what led to him actually finally being sent to prison, because he created this red sky. It was, affecting Superman, but it was also affecting everything else. I mean, that bit, it was a helicopter, wasn't it, that came flying towards him, and he did something, and it just exploded it. And he just showed that he'd gone really maniacal and crazy. And then, flash to the present day, he's being transported out of prison because he's ill, and he's dying
or something.
He's got cancer, and so he comes to his sister because it's like, I want you to help me. And
she'd been working with him apparently, hadn't she?
Yeah.
So she had been working with him all the time. Because he said he brought that up, didn't he? So basically, he knew she'd finished the drug, whatever she was making. So he wanted her then to give him it to help him get better.
Yeah. So we had that, and then we cut away to, obviously, you had this bit in the flash, like in the previously on bit at the beginning, which showed that staff, the Martian staff, and it's like, why are they showing this thing from ages ago? And the relevance was because it was to do with Manchester Black again, and he'd managed to get his hands on the staff, and so John and Kara had been investigating Manchester and his actions and what he was up to, and they had the bit with the staff. And was that the bit with the grave at that point, or was that later on?
Later on, there was the thing with the grave. What happened after that bit? We realised that whoever had attacked James had set off the Supergirl alarm.
Yeah.
So they clearly didn't want him to die.
Yeah.
And they think Manchester had something to do with it, didn't they?
That's right, yeah. And in the meantime, John was having all these flashbacks and these traumatic memories and things like that. So he was going through something, something was going through his mind, and he was really getting, everything that's been building up that we've been talking about how Manchester's been poking him and prodding him and trying to say, this isn't the real you.
He went into his mind, didn't he? That's the bit that happened. He went into his mind and he found the Martian weapon, and he'd burnt the grave, and he said something about punishments.
Yes, and because he said, you and me are connected now, and he said, you awoke something in me, and I can read your thoughts, and I can understand your brain and how it works, and he enraged John because of the fact that he was basically desecrating his father's grave and stuff like that. And you had that whole bit where Supergirl was almost frozen outside, and there was all fire going around them, so she couldn't get to help them. She was trying to do a cold breath, but everything sort of went into slow-mo outside of that circle of fire, didn't it?
Yeah.
But then he got away. He got out there, and obviously John was left like, we need to stop him, and all this stuff. Then you had the whole bit, like you say, with James. Lena got the information, so while she's having this very awkward reconnection with her brother, who at this point I was thinking, okay, this is weird, because I'm looking at him as the guy from 2.5 Men, and I'm like, he just seems a little bit sarcastic and a bit snarky, and he's being a bit off with Lena, but he's like, I need your help and stuff, and it's like, he's not coming across as this sinister, evil villain, it's very bizarre. And she then got the call about James, and she was like, I have to go, and she rushed off. They also went to the hospital, and that's when we got to meet James's sister.
Yep.
She turned up, and she was like, these people are like family, to the nurse. She's like, they can be here, and they can be involved. And then...
What Alex had said to Lena, that drug she was using, can't she use it on him? And she was going, no, it's not safe, it hasn't been tested.
Yeah.
So then she had to go back and try and get Lex to help her extract something from the whatever it was, so that to make it safe for James.
Yeah, that's right.
Because obviously you said last week, oh yes, this is convenient.
I know, and it was,
Shot
wasn't
James
it?
so she can use the drug.
It was absolutely convenient. So while that was all going on, and they then decide, okay, this is the only way. You know, we need to use this to save him. So they decide to go ahead with that. That's when the power blackout occurred.
Well, no, first, they had to argue the toss, though, didn't they?
Yeah.
Because they weren't going to. They didn't use the drug. What happened is they wanted to use it, and James's sister didn't want them to use it.
That's
so
right.
they were going ahead with the surgery, not the drug, right? That's what happened regarding that. What was interesting is the fact that, you know, where Lena's assistant, I never know what her name is, when Lex Luthor was there, she did look comfortable with the fact that she was working with him.
Yeah, no, she didn't.
Yeah,
what's her name? Eve Teschmacher or something her name is,
yeah. So I thought, oh, you know, why is she not pleased about that? So she hasn't worked with her that long, so what does she know of him?
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, so so basically she'd gone back to try and fix the drug so that it would work on James.
Yeah.
In the meantime, the sister had said, no, we're going to go ahead with the surgery.
Yeah.
So what happened next was John was praying to his dad, pleading with his dad for help. And he was seeing dead people.
Yeah.
Basically, that's what could happen or something.
Yeah.
We had a quick moment where Neo kissed Brainiac, and he seemed to think, oh, that's quite cool.
Yeah.
So that was only a little snippet. But then Manchester turned the power off.
Yep. And so then
Kara and they were in surgery.
And John went looking for him, didn't they?
Yeah, and he was in that's what he was in surgery, and he also attacked cracked the dam.
Yes.
So the dam was burst.
So it was going to flood the city.
Yeah, he was taunting John. You know, to come on then, you know, to bring him out of like he's been trying to do for the last couple of weeks. So they had to fix the dam, didn't they? Because otherwise that would have been catastrophic, as the saying is.
Yeah, so obviously Kara was the one that was mainly in charge of doing that because she's Supergirl. And you had this confrontation between John and Manchester, which basically turned into their final confrontation.
Well, yes, because what did he do to him?
Well, he killed him.
Yeah, but I know he killed him, obviously, but what did he do? Because he disappeared. He's all disappeared.
It's like he almost disintegrated him, like, with his Martian powers, didn't he? He just did sort of
something. It's all crumpled into nothing.
Yeah.
And all was left was the ring.
Yep.
It's like he really got to him, didn't he? Really got him annoyed for that to happen.
Yeah.
And then because the power had gone out and they thought that James was going to die if they didn't do something soon, they get that. Was it the assistant turned up with the drug?
Yes, it was.
So they used the drug and it worked.
Yeah.
So that's like, yay. And then Lex turned the lights. And then we've realised then that it was Lex who turned the lights out.
Yeah, because Lena...
And he had James shot.
Lena discovered the fact that it was to do with him because she said about the hospital was owned by LexCorp or something. And it's like, we own that hospital and it was you and why would you do this? And he then became Lex Luthor and he revealed everything was faked, basically.
Who was that guy that appeared?
That was the bodyguard guy. You remember we saw they were a brother and sister that were in it. I think it was last season, and they worked with the mum.
I know. Oh, yes, I remember who it was. Oh, okay. So that was who he was obviously covering as a prison guard, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Then he revealed his true identity, but the shocker came.
Lex had set everything up so that James would get shot, which would elevate her sorting out the cure, which would be used on him, and that she would have no choice but to test the cure, and then when they knew it worked, he was able to use it, which has now made him all-powerful. And then we found out that Eve is also in on it, and she's also working with Lex too.
Yeah, so obviously she said, I'm never giving you the cure, and he said, don't worry, I've already had it. And the assistant had given it him, or the bodyguard guy had given it him, and so the fact that she was looking weird, that was obviously like a red herring.
It was a red herring.
She clearly looked really uncomfortable with them, or whether she was worried that she'd susser.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it was. But to me, it looked like she doesn't like the idea of her working with her brother.
Yeah.
And she's a buddy as well.
Yeah.
And now he's free, and he made her house invisible.
Yeah, that's right. He set off all the security stuff, so it killed all of the prison guards and stuff outside. And then he did something, and the whole house was then turned because he left. They knocked out Lena, didn't they? They like chloroformed her or something, and left Eve there to basically. He's like, I'm not going to kill you. You know that you've got to see everything that's going to happen. You know, I can't have you dead because you've got to see what I'm going to do next.
What he's going to do, yeah.
And he left Eve there to look after her, and he left the house with Otis. And they then killed everybody, made the house invisible so no one will be able to find it. And then they got into a helicopter, didn't they?
And Supergirl spotted him.
And then you just had that ending where Supergirl showed up and it was like, oh.
She didn't see the house bit disappearing, I don't think.
No.
She just saw him.
Yeah.
Because he was blowing things up as he went out towards his helicopter or whatever it was.
Yeah, that's right.
She was watching. It's like, oh, I thought, oh my days, I love the writers of Supergirl. It's getting exciting.
But it was
such a good episode.
I really liked it because they really did a good job. They brought in this, this frail, weakened, pathetic version of Lex Luthor, and it's like, oh, he's repentant. And I was a bit suspicious. I was like, this is Lex Luthor, and he's not. And he was having all this thing, where he was connecting with her and talking about the woman that used to sing to him. And she used to sing him an Irish song and stuff. And it was like, that was Lena's biological mother. And how she was like a mother to him too, and all of this. And there was all these things of like trying to gain her trust, trying to...
Sentimental and all that, wasn't it? Yeah.
And then he revealed just how callous and horrible he is.
Because, obviously, because he knew she had to extract the whatever it was from the drug.
Yeah.
To make it safe. Like you said, him getting shot and knowing that she'll use it on him because he was her boyfriend, then left him free to just, while the cat's away, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Is it while the cat's away or something?
It was so clever.
He knew that she was out of sight, so that he knew it was safe then for him to use.
It was just really clever scheming because, he'd made himself ill on purpose so he could get out of prison, and then... He manipulated Lena into sorting out the cure. So he's like, well, I've got out of prison by being sick, but I can't continue to be sick, so I need to be cured. And so then she cured him, and he's like, great, so now I'm healthy, I'm really powerful, and I'm out of prison. So everything is going according to plan. And it was like, he's such a manipulative genius.
It's going to get really exciting now.
Yeah.
Oh, it is, especially when James gets better.
Yeah, because we'll get to see. Yeah, we'll get to see what what happens with him.
He obviously encountered him with the Superman days, didn't he?
Yeah, because he kept making little references to that, didn't he? He's like, "Oh, Superman's best pal," and calling him Jimmy, and she's like, "It's James," and stuff like that. Yeah.
But yeah, it's very exciting.
It was good. It was like, and again, like I said, it was the after the other two shows we've just discussed, it was the third one in a row that was just really exciting, and I was just like, I can't wait till next week now. I can't wait to see this showdown between Supergirl and Lex Luthor. It's going to be really exciting.
It is.
Now, going from that into something that, again, I was let down by. I was hoping that it was going to be exciting. I've been longing for this episode because it was like, this is the full-on, let's go into the future and get everything fleshed out storyline. It was Star City 2040 was the name of this week's episode of Arrow, and it just left me feeling really meh. I was like, it's not what I had hoped for. I don't know what I wanted from this full-on episode in the future, but whatever it was, I don't feel I got it. It just came across very much like a teen drama. I mean, there were good things. I mean, there were some cool fight sequences, and we got some interesting plot developments, but generally, the whole thing just, I don't know, it just fell flat for me. I mean, what did you think?
Yeah, it wasn't great. Obviously, we got a bit of backstory from Mia from when she was young. Obviously, she had the child, then she was trained. And then was that Oliver's sister that was training her?
No, that was Nyssa.
Oh, that's who it was.
Sister wife.
yes, that's it, sister wife.
That was good.
So we had to... That was quite good,
because
that bit at the beginning.
Yeah, because we'd been wondering, hadn't we, about how's Mia so much of a badass? How is she, able to handle her so well? And it's like, well, the reason she handles herself so well is because she was trained by the head of the League of Assassins.
Yeah.
But what was interesting in that time period where Nyssa was training her and turning her into a killing machine, there was no sign of Oliver or no mention of Oliver or anything like that. Oliver was completely absent from that. It was just...
He was only there for the birth, and that was it. Didn't show him at all with any of the other growing up bits.
So we've still got the mystery of like where Oliver is in that particular time period, but...
Yeah. So, so she's obviously kept her away from the city. She's obviously has to stay wherever they're living in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And she got a bit annoyed and fired the arrow at the wall and then hit the picture, one of those digital pictures, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was pulling the arrow out and it opened a door and then she found Felicity's secret room with all her tech.
Yeah.
Now she knows that she's been doing all this vigilante stuff.
Yeah.
And she's not happy with her.
No.
So she decided, right, I'm off. I've had enough of you. And then buggered off, got herself a tattoo, and then the place she was getting the tattoo in done was that place where we saw her at the beginning, the first time we saw her, at the prize fighting, is it?
That's right, yeah, cage fighting, yeah.
And she said, what's that? And you can make a lot of money if you know what you're doing. She's probably thinking, well, I'm really well trained. I think I could do well off of this.
Yeah.
So that was the sort of like...
The flashbacks?
The others are flash forward, aren't they?
The flashbacks, yeah.
That's the flashback, and the others are flash forward, aren't they?
Yeah.
Right, so they set off to the glades, rock climbing.
Yeah.
He said, there's no an easier way of doing this. But no. I thought, he hasn't changed much, has he, from when he was a kid? So she's anti-vigilantes. And she's left Dana and Dana.
Dinah.
I got it right the first time, didn't I? Dinah and the gang, she's left them behind because she doesn't want them involved.
Yeah.
Because she's not into them. So they have gone doing their own bit of snooping. So she went to see Ansem.
Yeah.
Some detective she used to work with, trying to find out some stuff. And he tells them that about it was a fake. She faked her death. They faked her death.
That's right. Yeah.
And obviously Roy wasn't happy with him.
No.
Roy decided to go a bit mental, start beating the shit out of him. It's just like, okay, yes, we know you're still there, Roy. You haven't done anything very exciting, but yeah, Roy's there.
Yeah. Yeah, because what was the group they found out? It was called, was it Eden something? Eden Corporation or something like that? That was like a terrorist group, and they were using this this other company that Mia and William have got the coordinates to. They were using it as a front for whatever they're up to. And they were the ones that had paid...
Galaxy 1 it is called.
That's it, yeah. They'd paid the SCPD to cover up and fake Felicity's death. So you're like, okay, so there's this... So they introduced this element of this, like, terrorist group. And it's like, okay. The other cool thing we had that was quite cool was the bit where Mia and William go to the Galaxy 1 place. And they're trying to get in and they're trying to charm their way in and all this lot. But then they got stopped. And then just at the last minute, Connor showed up.
Yeah.
And he flashed a badge. And it was like, wait, who are you? And he was part of some new other... What did he say? They're like the good version of Argus or something. I can't remember what they were called, though, what the name of the organisation was. But it's
I can't remember either.
Other organisation that he works for. He's some kind of agent. And because they saw his credentials, they were like, oh, yeah, that's fine, go ahead. And so they let him get in the lift. And it was like, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. She wasn't very happy, because wasn't that when she confronted him and say, like, who are you?
Yeah, because she seems like they've been having some kind of relationship.
Anything real? Because they were like a couple, weren't they?
Yeah.
I think. And she'd go like, was any of it real?
And
he goes, of course it was. And she's thinking, all this time she's been with him, and like she never knew anything about what he was up to.
Yeah.
And then we went back to the Bat Cave.
Yeah.
Or the Arrow Cave, I should say. And Rene was there. I called him Rene because I'm sick of calling him the wrong name.
Yeah, Road Dog.
I wrote Mad Dog, then I changed it to Rene. And he's found out what Dinah and the gang are up to, and he's party to what Galaxy is up to.
And he revealed to them the plan was they're going to blow up the city, and then they're going to rebuild it to be a utopia like the Glades is, because he's like, look how much better the Glades is compared to Star City. So we're going to blow it up, and we're going to rebuild. But don't worry, it's all going to be done okay. People are going to be evacuated. Nobody's going to get hurt and all of this stuff. And it's like, God, what's happened to you? How did you become so naive and stupid?
Zoe wasn't happy, was she?
No, she wasn't, because it's like, how can you be a part of all of this? You know,
Yeah,
what's happened to you? You used to be a vigilante, you used to be like these people, and now you're working with these people, and you think it's
yeah,
justifiable to blow a place up. It was just
yeah.
like, what the hell? So then, obviously, that sequence, ties into the sequence with them in the Galaxy place, Galaxy
Yeah, they
One.
got into the boss's office, didn't they?
Yeah,
Flagging some BS to him while Mia got some DNA off his cup because they needed the DNA to replicate it to get into the next bit they needed to get into. So
because
Connor had sent them in there.
they needed to go into the sub
So,
levels of the building
so
or
Will was
something.
blagging all this rubbish to this guy
Yeah,
while she was like getting the DNA. So then he put it in a fancy replicating machine,
hmm
which was pretty cool.
yeah, and there's
What
this.
was the Wizard of Oz reference around that time?
I don't remember. But like, this is the thing with me not being fully
When you're
invested.
not
It was sort
interested,
of
you don't pick up on the little
I miss
bits.
out on some of the little bits. Yeah,
Okay. Okay, so anyway, so yay, it's Felicity in a cage.
yeah. So they were all like, "Oh, she's here," because obviously they didn't know that she was still alive because they weren't part of that conversation to find out that it had all been covered up. So
Mm.
for them, it was like, and she's like, "I told you you shouldn't have come here. You weren't supposed to come here and stuff." And they're like, "Well, we are here now, and we're going to get you out." And then she told them that in the building, the bombs that they're going to be used to blow up Star City are in this building. So they're
Mm.
like, okay. And then it was then kind of around that point they got Felicity out and stuff, and that's when,
Yeah, because they used the same DNA thing to get open that cage as well, didn't
yeah.
they?
And then Dinah and Roy and Zoe sort of showed up, didn't they?
Not straight away.
There wasn't much that happened in the
well,
meantime
well,
between
basically, let
that.
me let me say this bit then, because obviously then you can carry on when we get to that bit.
Okay, go on then.
Right. So yeah, so she came out the cage. There was a big cuddle for Will. Mia wasn't impressed.
Hmm.
It's like, oh, so I never thought I'd see you again. I'm thinking there's a daughter who's younger,
Yeah.
and she's like rejected, so she didn't look very happy. So they're going to help Felicity, but Mia's not happy.
Yeah.
And they, yay, the vigilantes to the rescue.
Hmm. Oh, was that also the moment where she explained why she'd kept them apart and that, it was to
Yeah,
protect them and she didn't want like to hurt anybody and everything she'd done was good, that she wasn't trying to do anything negative. She was trying to explain to Mia her motivations for why she had done everything
that's
she
right.
had done.
Will was all right about it, but she still wasn't impressed with what she was saying. So
Yeah. Then that's when the others turned up and they found out basically that about the bombs and that there were no plans. There weren't actually any plans to evacuate the city. So it was just
yes,
all going to get blown up and hundreds of thousands, millions, whatever, how many people were going to potentially die. So they were like, we need to stop this and we need to disable these bombs.
they had a little moment with Mia and Connor, and when we didn't find out the truth about why Diggle adopted him,
Mm-hmm.
which was like, yeah, come on. Oh, they didn't tell us.
Yeah. So we still got that mystery
So
yet.
I put, and not finding out the truth.
Mm.
So that was a pointless bit. Why did they bother with that bit? So
Yeah.
yeah, so the bombs are already on the site, and
Mm-hmm.
Rennie's come to tell them the truth.
Yeah.
They're going to let the bombs off and blame vigilantes.
Yes, that's
Mm.
right.
So the detonator is in the fidget cube. That guy was Dale, is it?
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically the detonator.
Yeah.
So then they had to go into this masquerade ball dressed up
Mm-hmm.
to get in. Mia found Dale
Yeah.
and kicked the shit out of everybody.
Yeah, that's right. Showed how much of a badass she is, yeah.
Renee told them to reveal that they were vigilantes, so they all appeared, took their cloaks off, and they was like, "Yeah, we're here."
Yeah.
But she saves the day,
Mm-hmm.
Mia.
Yeah.
And then Renee had to go on record saying who the vigilantes were. Basically, he had to let everyone. So we had they're all named and shamed. Basically,
Mm-hmm.
I put so they will now go on to another project because obviously that one was blown.
Yeah.
Taking over Star City, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was their other backup plan. If that
They're,
didn't work,
well, they're going to use the Archer program now, aren't they, instead?
that's it. The Archer program. I think Dale is suspicious of Renee, though.
Yeah.
I think he doesn't quite trust him now.
Mm.
So they have the tech. They have the tech to take Archer global and wipe out vigilantes.
Yeah.
So Mia and Felicity are having a mother and daughter chat,
Mm-hmm.
and she tells her she's on about the dad, about Oliver, and she says she's responsible for Oliver's demise.
And she's the one that created the Archer program, which is exactly what I said the other week, didn't I? I said this thing she's working on, and it turns out their house security, which says Green Arrow has entered the building and all of this stuff, that house security, that is the basis for the beginning of the Archer program. And I was like, I called it. I knew. I knew where this was going.
Yes. So, yeah, like I say, there was a bit of snippets of stuff that was good, but it wasn't all that good.
No, it just wasn't. It just didn't meet. Like I said, I don't know what expectations I had for it, but whatever they were, they just weren't met by.
Maybe next week will be better because of now what we know at the end of that episode.
Yeah, hopefully.
We'll find out more of current day stuff, like not flashbacks, forwards things.
Yeah.
Things that her leading up to what she did.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, all in all.
So there we go. Only thing, I don't really have any gossip or anything about Arrow or any news about Arrow, because obviously, things are winding down now. Now it's coming to an end.
Yes.
The only thing was a real life thing, which was that Stephen Amell got into a bit of a Twitter argument with Dave Bautista in regards to in regards to wrestling and things like that, because obviously Bautista's now a film star and he's recently come back to the WWE, and Stephen Amell sent out something about it, and they know each other, but apparently Bautista took a bit of offense to Stephen Amell sort of saying about celebrities getting involved in wrestling and all of this, and he's like, I was a wrestler before I was a celebrity. And it was almost like, what's your excuse? Do you know what I mean? Because how that bit where Stephen Amell showed up in the WWE that time because he was friends with Cody Rhodes and stuff like that. And it's like,
and they got Cody Rhodes in his program.
Yeah, it's like you're an actor that aspires to be a wrestler, whereas I'm somebody that was a wrestler and I went and made my name as an actor, and now I just come back for a bit in wrestling. But it's like, stay in your own lane, don't get involved in my business, kind of thing. That was like,
we don't want to say stuff like that. The Rock will knock him out.
I know.
he's floating on thin ice, mate, if he says things like that, and he is about it.
But yeah,
he'll shine his boot up and stick it sideways where the sun is shining. If you smell la 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 la. What The Rock is cooking.
What Dwayne is cooking.
That's two wrestling references in this podcast tonight.
Yeah, there we go. So, let's move on to our final topic, our final episode. So we're going to end this. With a bang in the episode that's called Time Bomb. This week's episode of The Flash, and wow, what did you think?
It was good. It was good.
There we go. So, thank you very much, everybody. It was good. That's the end of this week's podcast.
Yeah, yourself. So basically, start with Nora going to see Thorne again and telling him, like, it didn't work, and nothing's, we thought we'd saved the day, and then there's another cicada, and at the time when she had arrived back, the headline had changed on the paper again.
And he had no idea what was going on, didn't he? Because he said, I don't know who this is or what's happened here.
And she said he can't help her anymore. And the time clock ticking now, was that 11 minutes or 11 hours? 11 hours?
I don't know. I'm not sure what.
I think it must be, because I think the first one would have been days, and the next one's hours, and the last one's minutes.
Yeah.
Because it could have been 11 minutes, because too much happened in more than 11 minutes. So it's got to be 11 more hours, whatever that means.
Yeah.
Whatever was going to happen after the clock stops ticking. So basically he said to her, can't help you anymore, you have to go and tell your father the truth.
Yeah.
So throughout the whole episode, she's like, I want to tell him, I don't know what to do.
She kept having moments, didn't she? She kept having moments where she was like, I need to tell you, and then they got interrupted, and then certain things that played out with other characters in the episode you had shots of her kind of pulling a face and struggling, clearly thinking, this is
a worse face than she's already got.
Yeah, this is relatable to me. This is like, they're parallels with what I'm going through, and stuff. Because the main parallel between her struggling with her secret was this new meta that we got introduced to, and she was tied into Grace and Grace's parents dying and stuff, wasn't she?
Right. Yeah. So Grace has took her uncle to Canada and put him in a cabin by the lake.
Yeah.
she revealed. Sorry, I couldn't help herself. She revealed to him that she's from the future because he didn't know who she was, did he? And he's like, Grace, great, and not from the future.
She got a doll out, and
Oh yeah,
then
there's
he
a doll with
remembered
a
the
little
thing that
girl,
he'd,
the little
yeah.
one sort of attached to it. But she wants to get his powers back. That is her aim.
Yeah.
And then they showed Joe and Cecile and that at the hospital trying to find some information on Dr. Ambrose.
Ambrose.
I put her Ambrose. I like the rice pudding. So they didn't seem to be able to find out anything else about her apart from mostly when her partner died, she changed, and there's no other connections. And Cecile was going, they're all telling the truth. So he goes, right, we're back to square one, blah, blah, blah. Then cut to the lab where Shirley is now translating Nora's book to find out who she's working with.
Mm-hmm.
And then he gets a shout, those things won't clean themselves. So he turns up into the next room with a... With the whole broom thing was hilarious.
Yeah.
He was on the broom and everyone was like ducking every time he moved, like, hey, you can knock my head off in a minute. And they've obviously revamped that room because obviously where they had the disaster. Well, that was quite funny, right? Oh, that's very nice. Yes, well, we had to do something. I thought they're saying it before the viewer says, that looks different.
Well, it was
covered their backs.
It was because of Ralph, wasn't it? Because Ralph showed up for the first time in a couple of weeks. And he was like, hey, you've remodeled. And they were like, well, we had to after the place got attacked, so...
Yeah, but it was clever.
Yeah, that was the explanation.
Yeah.
And then they got a signal anyway. They got a thing came up, and they were like, there's a thing. They turned out we've got this, what was it called? Star something. The place, they basically got a storage place.
I just said it was the Flash archive.
Yeah, I can't remember what, they called it something, but...
yeah, it'd been broken into.
We keep stuff there that we want to keep hidden, and it's various things we worked on or stuff we've taken from other people or whatever. It's like an archive, and the alarm had gone off, so they went there to check it out, and it turned out that to do with the time sphere.
It was a time sphere, yeah.
Which was Thorns.
They stole the time sphere, but it isn't. They hadn't because it was still there.
There was one in the woods.
Cisco and Shirley found. It's in the woods, so I was thinking, well, it's still there, but it's here. So they got Iris, was it, to do a test. I can't remember what we called it now, but she was trying to make a scratch, and as she was doing it, it appeared on the other one. So they realised
it's the same one.
It's the same one that had come from the future.
Yep. And that's where they basically sort of that allowed them to put things together to go, this other cicada then has clearly come from the future. This is clearly, a time traveller. So they were like, oh, okay. So now we need to work out who it is and what they're up to and what they want and stuff.
And then we had somebody breaking into the police station. The police archives, I think it was, like the office downstairs where they keep everything, all the old files.
Mm-hmm.
Grace appeared, used her blade to hold the policeman against the wall that was clever, actually.
It was,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then she just grabbed a file out of a box, and then she just put her hand up, and the thing came to her.
Yeah.
Come back to me, and then just walked out, and the policeman what's going on? So that happened, and then
they had the bit where they were trying to then work out what had been stolen, didn't they? Because they said
this. Work out what actually had been stolen, and it worked out it was an old police file from 2017.
Yes, and it was connected to the death of Grace's parents.
Yes.
And so then that's where they all the pieces clicked into place, and they realised who this new cicada was.
Yeah.
And so then they realised that she's going after this person. That's obviously what she's going to do. And
basically something had happened caused by a matter that then a knock-on effect from this had killed her parents. So they now know that this potentially it's the meta she's going for, because in this file it obviously has information in there, doesn't it?
Yeah, because what had happened was there was this woman, she used the cash machine. The cash machine started playing up. She ran away scared. Other people went to the cash machine. The cash machine then exploded and killed the people. And then you see this little girl in the car watching, and that was obviously Grace. And that was basically how they died, was from an exploding cash machine.
Yeah.
But it was accidental. It was an accidental death, but the woman had run away because she was terrified. And then that was the parallel with Nora, because when they did track her down, she was like, nobody knows that, no one knows about this. I don't want my family to know. I don't want you here. I don't want this, being brought up and all of this kind of thing. And then that was that whole thing again about keeping secrets from your family. And obviously Nora stood there listening to all this, thinking, this is exactly what I'm doing,
Yeah. We also had a little sidebar there where Cisco was with his girlfriend, and they're officially social media.
Yeah.
Social media official or something.
In a relationship.
Yeah. And Ralph popped in, which is something he could have texted, and got interfering as usual, like he does. And so then they left, and then he decided to get up to no good, and he Peter Parkered her.
Yeah. There's a nice little Spider-Man reference there.
Yeah. I mean, I know Ralph's intentions were good, but obviously Cisco's right that he should be allowed to be himself sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then Ralph is right in the fact that eventually she'll find out, just like Cecile did with Joe had to eventually let Cecile know what was going on, didn't he? So, it's quite sweet.
The point of that whole little plot thread sort of played out in a few little chunks throughout the course of the episode, but it was like, Ralph trying to get involved, Ralph trying to say, when are you going to introduce her to the rest of the gang and all this lot? And Cisco saying, look, I want to keep my two worlds separate. And he's like, how can, look at with this. And he got the mask and everything. And he's like, I don't want that for her. I don't want to know. And then, like you said, Ralph pointed out, well, it's going to come out eventually, buddy, because it's part of who you are and you're not being completely yourself with her. I mean, I suppose, again, it was playing into the themes of the episode about keeping secrets from people you care about.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
It was on topic, for the overall theme of the episode.
So that was that. But we had Shirley was still looking into Nora, and then he's triggered it was something to do with Thorne, and he found some more evidence in the wheelchair.
Yes, because he was sat there thinking, wasn't he? And he was like, and that was so cool, that bit, because it was almost like he was being all three characters.
Yeah.
Because he was being Sherlock, but then he was behaving like, if I was Thorne and all this lot, and he was like looking, the little looks on his face, and then also Harrison Wells, and then he was feeling around the chair, and he's like, I would want to keep things close, and then he found a little secret panel on the underside of one of the arms of the wheelchair, and then inside there was a little device.
Yes, which we didn't find out till later about that, but thought like he's getting closer, isn't he?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we had.
You had the thing...
So basically, they've gone to see the woman at the party, and she was saying she didn't want anyone to know.
Yeah.
Nora was sounding Barry out about keeping secrets, and then her eyes went all weird, and she had a link to Grace's mind, knowing that she was on her way. So Flash and her zoomed out in their costumes, and the kids thought they were like cosplay.
That's right. They were like, wow, you hired some cosplayers.
And he said, yeah, let's go and play football. So he got all the kids. He got her to take all the kids out.
Yeah.
To pretend they're going to play cosplay. And then Grace got there, and she flung the thing at the woman. Oh no, they actually had a fight, didn't they? They had a fight, and that woman was using her power, and the little girl said we went to run towards the mum to help her.
Yeah. And
got injured in the crossfire.
That's right.
And so obviously the little girl had to get taken to hospital. That Grace disappeared again, and the husband and the mum were falling out over it, and the little girl didn't want the mum in the room with her.
Mm-hmm.
She was a bit frightened of her.
Yeah. So
Grace went back to see Dwyer, is it?
Yeah, that's right.
And he's not agreeing with what she's doing, and then he's saying we get Ambrose or whatever her name is.
Ambrose, yeah, get Dr. Ambrose to help.
Yeah, get to help us, and she goes, she can't because I killed her, and it's like, oh, he wasn't. His whole face sort of went, whoa.
Yeah.
So that was that.
It seemed like he didn't like who she's grown up to be.
No.
He's like, and then when he said because then that's when she revealed what she was going to do and the thing to do with this woman, and he basically said about it being like an accident, that, what happened, that's obviously why he'd never gone after this woman, because it's like, it's not the same as the other metas, this thing that happened with her, that was not planned. She didn't go out of
She
her
had
way
the
to
police
kill
file,
your
didn't she?
parents.
She showed him the police file, and he said, "Look, it was an accident." And she said, "Nobody did anything about it, and they left it to the Flash." And then in the file there was some evidence which was charred dark matter residue.
Yeah.
And she said, "I can do a lot with this."
Mm-hmm.
And he's going, "No," and I think she shoved him, didn't she? He
Yeah,
tried to
she
stop
did,
her
yeah.
leaving, and she said something like, "You do anything for me." What did she say? Something like, you'd even die for me or something.
Yeah.
And then she left him, pushed him flying, and left again.
Mm-hmm.
Then we went back to the labs, and Shirley had gone into Gideon's little room.
Yeah.
With that thing he found.
And he plugged it in. It was like a USB device.
Yeah. And he's found out the truth.
And that's when he saw this, like a video playback, and it was an archive thing, and it was Thorne, and Thorne was talking about the time, and then also about multiverses, which was interesting. And he said about finding a way to manipulate them, and he said the line about the timeline is malleable, and then he was drawing all these symbols, and he was talking about manipulating the multiverse, and basically like almost implying that he's like, I don't know, like he's trying to become like a god, because he's like, I can exist in all these versions, I can control, like, I don't know, not just the flow of time or the way things happen in time, but I can also have an impact on the entire multiverse, all the different versions of me, all the different versions of everything. So what his game was there, I don't know, and how that's going to tie into now, like what we're seeing at the moment and what he's trying to achieve with Nora. But all these symbols, Thorne, Sherlock looked at them, and he was like, Gideon, like, basically, it was almost like take a screenshot, wasn't it? It was like...
Yeah, take a screenshot and match them against the book.
Yeah, and then when they all matched up, and then he realised, that's who's been helping her.
That's whose book it is.
Yeah, that's when the penny dropped, and he then knew for sure, okay, this is all connected to Eobard Thawne, the Reverse Flash. So it was like, oh dear. And obviously in the meantime, because you've had this whole thing running through where Nora's been trying and mulling over and stuff to tell them.
She nearly told him, didn't she? She was just about to tell him.
Yeah.
And then they got interrupted by Grace's appearance again at the hospital.
Yeah. So you had that whole showdown where Grace showed up, and then they were like, you need to do this, and you need to run, and you need to do this, and, you know, get in the way and get her out of the way. So the dagger just missed her and slammed into the wall.
Yeah,
and
then she grabbed the husband, didn't she?
Yeah, and she grabbed the husband.
He told Nora she had to run with Vicky.
Yeah, and she was like, "Where am I going? Where am I going? I can't keep this up." And they were like, "Don't worry, we're sorting out something." And then
the dagger was following her, wasn't it?
Yeah. So then you got the breach opened up. They were like, "Go to this place." They gave her coordinates, and then Cisco opened a breach, and as they opened the breach, they went through it. He closed the breach. Then the dagger came flying and hit the wall. And he was like, wow, that was close. Then something really weird happened, though, because then you had that whole bit. They arrived at Star Labs. It's like, yeah, they're out of the way. Cut back to the fight. Then, obviously, she's trying to summon back the dagger. Cisco tried to open another breach, but he couldn't.
Oh.
Something, like, interrupted it. And he was like, what's going on? What's happened? And he's like, I don't know. Something's stopping me. So it's like, oh, dear, that's not good. And so then the dagger took off and went flying back. And then... basically, the long and the short there is that Dwyer showed up, didn't he?
Yes.
And he tried to talk her out of it and say, this isn't you, don't do this, and all this stuff. And she wasn't having any of it. And she killed him.
No, couldn't believe that.
It's like, what? I couldn't, that was shocking. It was like, oh my God.
He just fell into Flash's arms, didn't he?
Yeah.
And then she disappeared again.
Yeah, and then she disappeared, and then afterwards they had there's no trace of her, they can't find anything to do with her anywhere. Like, oh,
and then they found out about her powers. She's got a binding quality. It's more dangerous because of whatever powers she's got.
Because of the cut on her head. Yeah. Because it went into her, like it went into her brain, so that's how she can obviously shoot those beams out of her hands and things like that.
But that dark matter stuff she found probably it's probably helped her as well.
Yeah.
The stuff she found in the file.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they know she's dangerous, and then what's his name? Dibley said, "Let's go and have a drink. I think we all need a drink." And they're all going to go. And he's trying to get Cisco to bring his girl. He said, "No, I'm not going to." And then Nora wasn't going to go. And then Cecile, with her mind reading, said, "She has something to tell you."
Yeah, she's like, what's the matter, Nora? You've got something on your mind. There's something you want to tell us all about. And she was just about to, but Sherlock jumped in instead, didn't
Yeah.
he?
Oh my God, yeah. And he kept saying things. She went, please don't say anymore. Don't say anymore. And he basically, go on, tell us.
Well, he basically revealed everything. He said this whole thing about I had a feeling she was working with somebody and all these things that come up. And he's like, the timeline is malleable and she's come here and she came at the right moment just to leave small footprints and leave little touches, enough that it would have an impact. But then everything changed when you decided to involve yourself the night of the Enlightenment and help your father to derail the satellite. And then something changed from there. But you weren't working alone. You were working under the influence or with the help of someone, with a partner, an accomplice, your teacher. This is the one who has sent you back to do all these things. And she's going, please don't, please stop, please, please. And then he's like, and they were like, who is it? And they were all like questioning, what's going on here? And then he's like, that person is Eobard Thorne, the Reverse Flash. And they're like, Nora? And then Iris was like, this isn't true. It's like, tell me it's not true. And she went, ah. And then Barry was like, it is true. He could tell just by looking at her and her reaction. Then she went to try and explain, and before she had a chance to say anything, whoosh, and then he put her in one of the...
Shoved her in one of those cages, yeah.
And she's like, please, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean anything, I wasn't trying to hurt anybody, and all this stuff. And he was walking away, and she was pleading, and then he just turned around and looked at her, and she was like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to lie to you, and then he was like, what did he say? Like, but you did, or something.
Yeah, and just left her crying in the thing.
Yeah, and he just went off, and then she slumped to the floor, and then that was it.
Just ended like that,
I was
didn't
like,
it?
oh my God. Ooh. And it's like, and that's it now, because as we discussed off recording, there is no Flash now until the 16th of April. So they ended it on a real, like, sort of moment. So it's like, wow. Yes. So now the truth is out. But we said this, didn't we? Last week we said about the episode being called Time Bomb and about it being literal and figurative and all this lot, and about how that everything's going to unravel. And it unraveled.
Yeah, throughout the whole episode, didn't it, with Shirley?
So, yeah, so there we go. So, wow, what a way to end. What a way to end the podcast on this big cliffhanger that we've got to wait several weeks for.
Yeah, we had one programme out of all of them, so all the others were pretty exciting. So that was good.
It was all in all, it was a pretty good week. On top of that, just as a sidebar, we'll have to do it like a separate recording at some point, a separate podcast. Like maybe we'll do it as like a Patreon exclusive or something. Try and entice people to actually donate to my Patreon. The Umbrella Academy was so good. So good.
I know.
So good and so exciting. And the way it ended, and I was like, and the fact that we've got to potentially wait until next year until we get season 2.
Yeah, I'm so glad I got a hold of it because it was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
I so loved it. So thank you for telling me about it.
No problem. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And anybody out there, anyone who's listening to this, if you haven't seen it yet, go and check out the Umbrella Academy. It's a very, very good story.
Yes.
And the other thing, I don't know if I mentioned this to you in a message, but I don't know if you've had a chance, but the other thing I've been watching is a new comedy show. I think it's only a singular, like a limited time series with Daniel Radcliffe and Steve Buscemi in, called Miracle Workers, which is very funny. They're about 22, 23 minute long episodes. And it's basically Steve Buscemi is God. And Daniel Radcliffe is a angel that works in the answering prayers department of heaven. And there's this new girl starts, and she's got all this vim and vigor and wants to change things and do more. And it all basically leads into this storyline where God's thinking of destroying the earth, and they've got to try and make a bet with him to try and stop it from happening.
Okay.
It's very fun. And Steve Buscemi's take on this laid back dude version of God, who, you know, loves breakfast cereal and creating... There's a whole joke that runs through every episode about what he's planning on creating next if he does destroy the Earth, and it's just bonkers and ridiculous and so funny.
I'll check it out.
It is very, very amusing. I would recommend it to you. I'd recommend it to anyone listening. Say, you know, it's not a big investment. They're very short episodes. So, and Daniel,
it's a bit like is it like our new Last Man
like
Standing?
Last Man on Earth, yeah, like having Last
Man on Earth. That's it, Last Man on Earth.
So it's
the light-hearted thing to the end of the week after watching so many intense programs.
Yeah, it's a bit of a palate cleanser at the end of the meal, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would recommend it. Like, I think it's only 7 episodes, and maybe they'll make another series. I don't know. But because it said it was a limited series, it may just be a one and done. But if it is, it's still worth watching. It is very funny.
Okay, I will do that.
So yeah, so that's my little extra bit at the end there. So thank you once again, Mum, for joining me this week.
You're welcome.
We've had again another week of technical difficulties. We seem to say this every week now, but hopefully it won't be too evident when you guys are listening back to this. If you enjoyed this, please leave us a like, because we'd really appreciate that, and also comments. We'd really appreciate hearing from you too. Somebody obviously said, there was a comment from, I think it was guy Rucky. Rucky thinks that you're very funny, so that was a nice compliment to you. And yeah, we've had some good feedback coming in, and the numbers are doing quite well. So obviously we want more, bigger, and get us to a bigger audience. Recommend us to your friends and everybody, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed to the channel already. And also, as I mentioned, Patreon and stuff, check in my description box, and also how you can communicate with me on Twitter, because I'm fairly active on there these days. So that will do it for this week. So, Mum, do this again, same time, same place next week.
Your company.
Yes, and yours.
Yes, it'll be Friday next week as well, because I think I'm only working in the evening. So.
Excellent. Right, so we will get all sorted by then, and we'll have a few things. We'll have a cup. We'll have the Orville back, but we'll have no Flash. And did we say no Supergirl as well? Or there is a Supergirl.
There is a Supergirl.
Yeah, there's a Supergirl and an Arrow, Star Trek and a Walking Dead, and the Orville. Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. All right then. Look
Okay,
forward to it. Thank you very much again for joining us, guys. You take care now. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye. 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 Bye.